Welcome to Flex Factor with Mark Navarra, the podcast that cuts through the noise to bring you the best strategies and insights in the coworking world. Produced by SpaceBring. Let's dive in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Flex Factor podcast. This time, we are here with a great guest. Mark Goldfinger is a general manager of Mindspace North America. Most of you will know Mindspace. Some others maybe not because they are not in the markets which Mindspace operate. So I will ask Mark to introduce himself and to explain a little bit more about Mindspace. It's a global flexible workspace provider, which in their words, they redefine the workplace experiences for companies of all sizes. But before working in Mindspace, Mark spent 6 transformative years at WeWork, where he had been having several really important roles, including overseeing international expansion and leading the sales team for Greater China. And that's something which sparked my curiosity. Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm good, Mark. Good afternoon. Thanks for taking the time to have me on. I'm excited.
It's a pleasure. You have an amazing background in sales and accounts and project management. And then you end up at WeWork.
Yeah.
How was that? How you end up in a co-working space?
So I was young enough and crazy enough, and someone asked if I wanted a ticket to a really fun ride, and I said, "Let's see what happens." And 6 years later, it was an incredible journey. So I actually, if you take a step back, I grew up in advertising, and I grew up in advertising and started working for a private firm when I was in high school. And it was here where I really understood what the true meaning of sales was, and that you weren't just trying to sell people certain things, you were actually trying to problem solve. And you were trying to understand what they needed and why they came to you. So if I can understand that, I could then help you solve for that need by selling you whatever it is that I was brought on to sell. If it was advertising space, if it was outdoor, street signage, whatever it was. So when I then went over to WeWork and I realized that the whole thing that we were trying to problem solve was that people didn't have an inspiring, engaging, fun place to be where they wanted to spend the majority of their day, because when you think about where you spend the majority of your day when you're working, it's at an office, right? You wake up in the morning, you do your workout or whatever your routine is, you go to your office. You're at the office for typically 8 to 10 hours, if not longer. Then you go home, you go to bed, back to the office, rinse and repeat. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden at WeWork, we were able to create this space that everyone wanted to be in all the time. And all of a sudden that got really exciting for me. And I was able to kind of help do that throughout the US, throughout London, the rest of Europe, Germany, and then ultimately into Southeast Asia. And then I ended up finding myself in Greater China for about 6.5 months as our head of sales. So for me, it was a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that journey, when I was looking at your work experience, it made you change something, right? Because at the beginning it was more sales and it was more project management, but after WeWork, you really seem to have focus on expansion and growth. I'm correct?
For the most part, yes. I think I joined WeWork very early on, right? It was the first 300 employees, and I was there through the very height of it, where we had 20,000+ employees, and then watched it kind of go up and down, unfortunately. But when you're doing sales at a hyper growth at that level, you always need to be on top of the expansion aspect. You need to see what's coming next. You need to figure out how can you problem solve for 3 problems ahead. And that to me was a really exciting challenge. So when I then left WeWork, or when I knew that I was getting ready to leave, what was really important to me was that I was able to go back into a really early age startup and take the knowledge that I had learned from the expansion aspect at WeWork and bring that into a new company. And a lot of those skills are transferable even if you weren't in co-working. So the company I joined after, which was called Unibrands, was focused on really M&A and e-commerce growth. So the goal of that company was to acquire brands that were sold on Amazon and provide an exit strategy for the founder, and then for us to take the company on board them and then be able to scale the company efficiently at a 20 to 30% year over year growth, not only on Amazon, but also off of Amazon. And my role in that company was really helping find the right hires. It was driving business development and partnerships, drive the marketing, and then ultimately help with the culture. So I was able to take a lot of what WeWork had given me and then implement that into a brand new company, even though it was in a different atmosphere.
And finally, to say it in some way, you land in Mindspace.
So we have 50 locations worldwide. We have 6 locations now in the US. We've doubled our US presence over the last 2.5 years, going from 3 locations to 6. And we're boutique, flexible, agile operator, right? I think people look at the co-working industry as the WeWork's and the Industriouses of the world. And I'm really happy that kind of Mindspace is a little bit, for most people, they think it's behind. But in reality, we are providing a different level of service and a different product at the end of the day for Fortune 500 companies, for strategic growth size companies who have their Series B, Series C funding that are getting ready to really scale and potentially go public. And then, of course, for your entrepreneurs who don't want to work out of a coffee shop every day or want to be able to have their own private office and really start to step up and be surrounded by other like-minded individuals who are all pushing for their companies to grow at the same type of pace.
Let's start by something easy. You
Yeah.
work in really different environments. Could you try to summarize, in a short way, how the values are in different markets? What are the people looking for?
Yeah, so I think one thing that Mindspace does really well is that even though we're a global company, we really hone in on making sure that each site is very localized. So it's kind of like localized globalization, if you will. So our location in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, New York City is going to feel very different than a location in Amsterdam or a location in Tel Aviv or Berlin, because the environment that it's around is also very different. But what you're going to feel as a Mindspace member is if you're working out of one of those abroad locations and then you come into the Williamsburg location, you're automatically going to walk in the door and be given that same experience. It's a very high-end hospitality experience, which we pride ourselves on. You're always going to walk in. There's a ginormous common area. There's places to eat. There's coffee. There's fruit water. There's tea. There's conference rooms. The internet works right away because you connect no matter what site you're at. So for us, it's like even if you are traveling, you're able to be in that specific location. And then I think when you think about the programming aspect of it, which is what we really try and nail down in every single location, is programming for what people in Berlin want on a Thursday afternoon might be very different than what people in Miami want on a Wednesday, right? Or even in London. London, we all love to have a couple of pints after work, right? So in London, a Mindspace hour on Thursday afternoon might be a little bit of a networking event surrounded by pints and different types of games and things like that. In Miami, where everyone is very health conscious, or San Francisco, where work-life balance is really, really important and spoken about on every single day level, then you're going to go in and you're going to see, instead of an event where there might be beer, there's going to be morning yoga or sunrise yoga on the balcony. So all of these different things our site managers and community managers are always thinking about to make sure that they're providing the best programming for all of our members.
Now the easy part is gone.
How
do you create a sales team? Because I think it's something that you have done several times, and I have experience in big operators, and sometimes it's difficult because there's friction or maybe disconnection between the local team and the sales team if it's not in the same location.
Look, anytime you hire salespeople, there's always going to be an ego at play, right? Everyone wants to be able to say, I've closed the largest deal, or that deal was closed because of me. And I think the first thing you have to do is realize that mentality starts at the top. And I think one thing that I make very clear to my team is that we are one team. If the team wins, we all win. If we as a market lose, we've all lost, right? This is something that's really, really important. I do a team call every 3 weeks with the entire US. And the first slide on my team call is we review all 6 of our North Stars. And the last one is win as a team and have fun. And this is crucial. So I think that's step number one, and that starts with whoever your head of sales is. So it's really important. Number two, I think it's really clear that the people that you bring on, you're not bringing them on to sit on a phone by themselves and just close every single deal possible. Now, yes, I want my salespeople to close every deal possible, don't get me wrong. But the attitude is that we need to problem solve for every person that comes into our space, and we need to figure out what brought them in the door. And if we can leverage people who are on the ground to qualify and give us that information, and then they're excited to pass that over to the sales team, to then have the sales team add the urgency and almost play like this like good cop, bad cop situation, it allows the team to just have a much better dynamic, and then they're hungry to work and close together. And I think it's also, when you close a large deal, and even if it's a small deal, it's celebrating everyone who was involved in that deal. You're celebrating the security team that helped you because you had to install cameras. You're celebrating the operations team who helped you orchestrate the move-in. You're celebrating the sales manager. You're celebrating the community manager. It's like really giving credit to everyone so that they all feel like they were part of something special. It's not just only one person. Great job, Mark. You closed this deal. Next. Right? I think that's what's really important.
You take care of also about the moving in the
No,
space?
but it's a lot of times you have large companies move in, right? Or anyone moves into the space. And a lot of times they come from another space, whether it's a sublease, whether it's a traditional lease. Sometimes they're coming from another operator. So you need to make sure that you're working with your operations team to make sure that freight loading is okay and the elevators are fine for them to use if you need TCOs to move into, things like that.
Okay, thank you. It's like I sometimes at least here in the Spanish market, some companies can provide support if they have to move part of the team in and out. And I was curious.
At the end of the day, the job is to close the deal, right?
Yeah.
So if I have a sales manager that comes to me and says, Mark, I can sign this 50-person company, but they're being really sticky and like they don't want to have to move everything themselves. Then I might look at the economics of the deal and I'll say, you know what? You're actually giving them a really high price. We're getting a great deal from them. Why don't we tell them that if they sign by X date, we'll take care of the move for them, right? There's all these different levers that we can play with to make sure that we're able to close the deal. And we've definitely done that before. Again, one of the things, and I said this early on, Mindspace prides ourselves on our member experience and our white glove service, right? So the white glove service starts from the moment someone walks in for a tour into the moment they leave us for whatever that reason might be. So if part of that needs to be that we need to help them and assist in the move, and it makes sense from a financial perspective, I'm very happy to get that done.
Yeah, great. That's the scope, I think. The one that everybody should have.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I was managing a space, and I've got someone visiting, an unexpected visit. The guy was quite nervous. He was a real estate operator, and he was visiting with two guys. They were WeWork scouts, and they saw the space and they want to visit. But the working space I was working for was owned by a real estate company, one of the most important in Spain. And the guy was quite nervous, right? Because probably he didn't want to get a phone call from his boss, her boss, telling him, hey, why are you, messing up with one of our clients? So they asked me if I can show the space. For sure, I was like, yeah, I'm going to show. And if they ask something which I can reply, I will reply. If not, I won't. That's it. It's fine. But I was surprised because prior to that era, WeWork was only interested in some locations in the city, which for locals were not interesting at all, right? Barcelona is a super compact city, and people usually, if you can avoid it, people don't like to commute, to do really long commutes. So a commute that looks reasonable for any people in New York, London, even Madrid, it's something which here is not desirable. But then that 2 years later, they were starting to looking for more central locations, which at the beginning, because the floor plans are not as good and are not as available, they start looking at the city center. And I was wondering how a company that operates in so many countries, so many regions, take this into consideration. Do you work together with the local team to make sure that the expansion team understands the needs and the worries of the people? How do you handle that?
Yeah, 100%. I think where we, as like, first of all, as the general manager, right? Like, I'm solely responsible for the expansion across the U.S. Now, I leverage our head of projects. I leverage our head of infrastructure. I leverage our CEO. Like, I leverage our sales team, and I want to know the community managers' opinions when I'm going into a new city if they're already there. I leverage local support. I leverage brokers and their knowledge and listen to what they tell me. And then I explore and I walk around the city and I learn and I understand and I ask people what's important to them. What do they care about? Why do they want to be on this side of the street versus that side of the street? And one of the things I love that Mindspace does is, like, we are very, very selective when opening up a new location. We will not open up a new location just because we need to grow from 50 locations to 53 to 55 to 107 in an X amount of time, right? Hypergrowth is a lot of fun. But if you don't grow while building a really strong foundation, you end up in a really bad situation, which we've seen happen. So when we're looking at new buildings, before we do anything, we do our due diligence to what does the building need to have? How close is it to all the major public transportation lines in a city? If we're looking in New York, for example, right, in Manhattan, are there amenities in the building? What side of the street is the building on? Can someone get from a subway station into the building without having to go outside? That's an added benefit, right? What happens if it's raining or snowing? They never have to go outside. It's amazing. All of these things. Are there lunch places around the area? Is there a rooftop? Is there amenities? Are there places to go after work if people want to socialize? So we really take all of that into account when looking at what kind of real estate we want to expand into next and what city we want to go into next.
Let's talk churn, right? Churn
Okay.
rate. Before the pandemic, the market was growing, everything was getting more money for new leads. So, excuse me for this, but like everybody, I mean, I think nobody give a shit for churn rate. It was looked as a positive thing because operators can replace small leads or leads that pay less for leads that pay more.
Yeah.
And it's like people at some point got crazy, start paying a lot of money for a square meter, and I was like, maybe the market get in a different direction. At that point, back in 2019, there was like, oh, in 2022 we probably will got a crisis, etc. At the end, it was something much worse because of COVID. Nobody was expecting that, and then suddenly, everyone seemed to worry about churn rate, right? For me, it was quite silly because at the beginning, it's like, yeah, you are replacing your clients, but then all your effort in marketing are lost, or part of them are lost to replace your clients, right? So you are not using all the outcome of your marketing efforts to grow, but you are using it to a little bit to replenish your huge churn rate, and on the other hand, grow a bit. But after COVID, everybody's super worried about churn, and then it's a new thing. And you really seem to have nailed it. Try to give 5 advice for the audience to keep a small churn rate.
Yeah, no. So first of all, I like that you were saying like no one cared about churn, but almost in a positive way. They were like, it's okay if it happens. Because I actually feel a lot of companies are like, no, we can't have churn. Like, churn is actually a good thing as long as it's controllable. So that's number one. Make sure you can control your churn. You need to understand why members are leaving before you start to figure anything else out. If members are churning because the space is dirty, your HVAC doesn't work, operationally the building isn't good, the programming isn't fun, they're not getting what they think they paid for, these are all issues. This is not good churn, right? This is you have a problem inside your house and you need to figure out how to fix it. If members are leaving or churning because they outgrew the space, because you are at high occupancy and they're coming up for renewal and you're increasing their rate to a rate that maybe is market standard, but they can't afford it, it's unfortunate, but it's a business. Sometimes you have to do it. Or if they're moving, or if they're downsizing, or if it's one of these variables that like is within your control, then there's nothing you can do there. Like it's not in your control. I get that.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I
Yeah.
think it's important to clarify this because some people forget this kind of stuff. How you get this info, why they are churning.
You
I know
talk
that
to
the
them.
question is silly, but
No,
I want you to tell.
I think a lot of stuff that we do is like not rocket science, and my boss gets really mad at me when I say that like it's not rocket science, but it's not. It's talking to them. We are in the business of hospitality and co-working and experience, and we need to be connecting with our members. So my community management team has a process. When a member wants to move out, they sit down with them and they say, why? Mark, why are you moving out? Why is Mindspace no longer the place where you want to be? And is there something that I can do to try and fix this? So by talking to them, you start to understand and learn. And maybe it's too late. Maybe you're like, you know what? Your community manager is rude. He's always on his cell phone. I don't like the programming. My computer and Wi-Fi never works. Actually, yada, yada, yada. Then you're right. There's nothing I can do to save you. But I can take that feedback and I can better understand what we need to do internally to try and help ensure that other members don't also churn. So that's what's really important, I think, in my mind, is really talking to the people that are leaving and getting a real understanding for why they're going, and also understand where are they going. Why are they leaving you, and why did they choose somewhere else?
That was the answer I was looking for.
I'm happy I could provide it.
Okay, now let's fly to present day
Okay.
and let's talk about Mindspace. How do you redefine the workplace? Which are these differentiating factors?
So I think it's design, I think it's product, I think it's programming, and it's overall experience. And I think these are the four things that we are always focusing on when operating within a Mindspace location, right? How do we make sure that we have the right product and it's a product that our members need and want? And how do we stay ahead of the curve to provide them with different things that they might not know they need, but they really like? Something very simple, right? How do we have stand, sit desks for our members? People don't like sitting in a chair all the day. They like to stand, they want to move around. How do we make sure we can provide that to them? How do we make sure that we provide spaces for people to work outside of their office? So every area in Mindspace is very curated so that you can go and sit and work. I don't always want to sit in my office. I like sitting at my desk. I'm on a dozen calls a day. No one else wants to hear my calls, rightfully so. But sometimes if I just have emails or things I want to do, I go and sit in a common area. It's really nice. I sit in a soft chair. I sit on the couch. I sit at the bar, at the high top. There's a million places to sit. It's amazing. The programming. How do we make sure, and we touched on this earlier, how do we make sure that the programming is something that is meets the needs of the members? So in Williamsburg, and I use that because I sit in our Williamsburg location, so I apologize, but it's my go-to building. So in Williamsburg, the majority of our members, similar in San Francisco, are AI clients, or AI companies, excuse me. So the events that we have are focused around AI. It's focused around engineers. It's focused on scaling, different ways to leverage AI. Like that's what people want to hear about and talk about. So let's do that. In DC, and again, everyone likes AI, right? It's the hottest buzzword right now. But in DC, most of the members, maybe they incorporate AI into the company, I'm sure, but it's a lot of policy. It's lobbyists, it's people working in the political ecosystem, right? One of the political capitals of the world. So we're not going to do an AI event in DC. Maybe we're going to have a lobbyist come speak. Maybe we're going to talk about a new tax reform that's going into place, something like that. So the programming is really important for us. In San Francisco, maybe we're planning a hike. Instead of doing a panel event, maybe we're planning an outdoor adventure for our members to go on and take 45 minutes out of their day to stretch their legs because it's nice weather. And design, it's really, really important that every time you walk into the space, you feel this like creative energy. And when you look around, you see all these other people working because it inspires you to work a little bit longer. I'll give you a real example. Last night, I have a daughter. She's 1 year old. And I try really hard to get home for bath time, which is at like 7 o'clock. It takes me about a half hour, 40 minutes to get home. But we also start to we love to play with her after dinner. So I always try and be home by 6:30. I can have a half hour with her, and then I do the bath time. My wife does the bottle, and then my wife and I can have a little bit of an evening before we go to bed. Last night, I had a lot of work to do. I knew that I wasn't going to get home for bath time. I apologized to my wife. I'm really sorry. And then I was starting to get tired, and I was like, all right, maybe I should try and go home, and then I'll just work at home. And I went out to get some water, and I saw a bunch of people who were still working at 6:45 in the common area. I said, you know what? I got another half hour in me. Let's finish plugging away. I knew I'd already missed bath time, so I didn't need to rush home. And I was like, let's keep working. And when our members see that and see other people also working, they are inspired to continue working and hustling on their project as well. So having this design that is inviting and makes you want to do your best is really, really important to us. So I think that's a lot of how I would say we are redesigning the way in which people work and what Mindspace does.
We have design, we have product, we have programming, and the last one you need to talk a little bit more. It's experience, I guess.
I think experience goes into all of it, right?
Yeah.
What experience covers everything. We are a white glove service. I want you to feel like you are entering an extension of your home when you come into Mindspace. So you walk in, you're greeted by a community associate or front desk associate, and they know who you are. Hey, Mark, how was your weekend? How's your dog, Fluffy? Did your kid win the soccer game this weekend that you were talking to me on Friday about? What's going on in the business? How did the investor meeting go, right? All of a sudden you walk in and you're like, hey, thanks for asking. This, all of that happens, right? Then throughout the day, there are different times when our community team can help impact your experience in a positive way. I think all of that really just drives into what we are leading, and that's really important across the company.
To do that, you need, excuse me for being maybe too straightforward, but good stuff, right?
Yeah, of course. Hiring is very important.
Yeah. And how you hire in the hospitality industry. How many people do you have for space
So we have 26 people in the US, give or take. And that ranges from community, sales, marketing, finance, operations, IT, myself. I'm probably missing one. I apologize if I missed you and you're listening to this. Hiring is really important. People rush to make the wrong hire sometimes because they need to hire so quickly. And it ends up taking them longer and costing them more than had they waited to find the right hire. And what we're doing when we hire, we take every hire very seriously. They go through 4 to 6 rounds, depending on their seniority. They are doing culture interviews. They're coming in and spending time at the front desk with other team members to kind of mimic the job that they would be doing so that they can see if it's actually something they would like to do. So if I was hiring you as a community associate, Mark, I would have you come in for an hour and sit at the front desk with our community associate, Eric, and see what he does. See how he interacts for that hour. Is this something that you would want to do? Is this something you would enjoy doing? Great, now let's talk about it. What did you enjoy about it? What didn't you enjoy about it? What do you think you would struggle in? Where do you think you would overachieve it? All of a sudden, we're now having these conversations. We're able to really weed out who's going to be really strong and who might not be.
This looks to me like a win-win.
I think so.
I'm wondering.
I make mistakes sometimes. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes we do all of this and we hire the wrong person. But I think what's also really important is it's okay to hire the wrong person. But once you realize they're the wrong person, have the conversation with them and talk to them. because otherwise you're just delaying the inevitable, and it's not fair to either party.
Yeah, that's clear to me. But on the other hand, I think that many people will appreciate that, because for sure someone can need the work and can lie
Of
to you and
course.
tell, hey, yeah, this is my dream job.
Right.
But at least you have done, the best possible to make sure that that person is a good fit. So it's not on you, right? I
Right.
guess.
I'm the leader. It's my team, so it's always on me.
Yeah.
I think the decision falls on me at the end of the day, good and the bad.
Flex is essential in this market,
Of course.
right? How all this quality, how do you balance flexibility with putting all this quality in it? I mean, it's like you are really spending a lot of time taking care of your clients, taking care of the customers, but on the other hand, it's a business in which flexibility is king, right? How you handle that?
Charge a premium.
And that's the fastest way of replying to this question. No,
No,
yeah.
look, I think like the whole point of the flexible workspace model is that you provide a solution for everyone, right? How did we start this podcast? We talked about like what it means to problem solve. And that's what being flexible is. So I need to understand as the sales manager, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a 10-person office for 12 months? Are you a 3-person company and you're going to scale, but then you're also going to bring on engineers for different phases of the business? So you'll need to scale up, you'll need to scale down. Maybe you travel for the summer and you'll want to cancel your membership. We're able to figure out everything by having that dialogue with you, by understanding and qualifying what you want. We could then figure out how to find the perfect office for you. Now, you could sign for month to month, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than if you sign for 12 months. But that's also everywhere in the world, right? If I take a cell phone bill and I tell my cell phone provider, Verizon, that I only want to pay month to month, they're going to charge me $50 a month. But if I tell them I'll sign for 12 months and it's guaranteed, and they can also already guarantee that revenue as a corporation, they'll say, great, you know what? For that guarantee, I will only charge you $40 a month. So that's how it works here too. But it's important that we remember our goal is to provide the potential member with the best possible solution. And if we can do that, then we're doing our jobs correctly, and we won't have churn that's negatively going to impact us.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult because I'm not sure if that's a thing in every market, but in some markets, really some people do struggle that understand that flexibility has a price, which
Of
for me
course.
is something pretty clear. But
I think that it's up to the sales manager to explain why it comes at an extra price, right? I don't know. Every month I have to ask you now, Mark, are you going to move out? Do I need to sell your office? Or are you going to stay? So it's one more thing I have to focus on. Now, I don't mind focusing on it. It's my job to focus on it.
that has a price.
But it has a price. If I know that I don't have to have a pricing conversation with you for 12 months, you're going to make my life a little bit easier. I'm going to give you a little bit more of a discount.
Regarding these, explaining the client, communicating with the client, how would you advise someone to pitch to the skeptical?
But tell them to come work out of the space for a day. Let them experience it themselves. I think they need to understand the creativeness that comes in, the energy, the excitement, the hustle and bustle that they could see. I think a lot of people actually still have this like negative attitude towards coworking because they think it's beers on tap, parties at 4 a.m. or 10 a.m, shots on a Tuesday. And I get it. Like I was part of that ecosystem. I understand having that mindset, but coworking has changed. It's I hate using the word grown up, but it's grown up. It's the way in which the world is moving to, right? The coworking industry is a $50 billion industry in my mind. There's a lot of opportunity for us. And I think you just need to be able to come see it for yourself to truly understand that.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by SpaceSpring, your fast track to co-working space management.
Okay, and last but not least, are you able to provide me with some 2026 predictions?
I think Mindspace is going to continue growing. I think more and more people are going to learn about it. I think more and more people are going to continue to lean towards flexible operators, and they're going to continue to see the need for it. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, as I said, the U.S. market size in 2024 was roughly at, I think it was around $40 billion. In 2025, we're at $45 to $50 billion right now. I truly believe that over the course of the next 7 to 10 years, we're going to 3x that. This will be over a $140 billion industry because this is the way in which the world is going. There's no doubt about it.
Related with this, with the US market, how do you see this high vacancy rate? Is it still that high, or it's only in some markets?
It depends on the markets, right? Vacancy rates are dropping. I mean, in New York commercial real estate is on track right now to do 40 million square feet of leasing in 2025. The record was 42 million in 2019. So it's coming back. People want to be back in the offices. Enterprise companies want their employees to be back. Maybe it's not 5 days a week, maybe it's 4 days a week, but people want to come back into a space. People want this human interaction, and this is only going to continue growing.
Yeah, great. Any other prediction?
No, I think let's have a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's have a lot of fun. And remember, it's not rocket science. Just sit down and talk with your clients.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Mark, for being part of the Flex Factor podcast.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your conversation and that you really allowed us to interview you. I really had a lot of fun.
Good. Me too. Hope everyone else enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much.
Bye.